and welcome. I'm Izzy at Minerva. In today we're looking at how to fit our very own Minerva Exclusive Emma top sewing pattern. This forms part of our range of sewing patterns here at Minerva, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you about how to choose the right size, how to grade between sizes, how to measure your body accurately, and how to make a couple of common fit adjustments for this garment should you need them. Now, if you're looking for further support with how to actually sew the garment, obviously we've got our lovely booklet, but we do have a sew along as well on our YouTube channel, so take a look at that. And if you're not sure what type of fabric to select as well for this pattern, we have a video talking you through all the fabrics that we would recommend for this pattern, so do take a look at those on our YouTube channel. Before we take this any further, let's take a look at how to measure our body so that we can determine which size we should cut out. Our high bust runs underneath both armpits in a nice straight line, like this, and it runs over the top of our bust. Make sure you can fit 2 fingers between yourself and your tape measure. Big breath in and out, and take that reading. The bust measurement is around the fullest part of our bust, and again it should be a nice straight measurement around your body. Do this in front of a mirror so you can double check. Once again, take a big breath in and out, and that's your bust. Now your waist is in between your hips and your ribs, so if you're not sure exactly where it is, pop both hands onto around your waist area and then bend to one side, and you should feel the break of where the bottom of your rib cage is and the top of your hip bone as it comes up. So take a little feel of that and just find out where the break is there, somewhere around there. Grab your tape measure, wrap it around that point, big breath in and out, 2 fingers between your tape measure and your body. Your final measurement is your hip measurement, so that's usually about 20 centimeters below your natural waist. So grab your tape measure and find the widest point between your waist and the floor. It's usually around the bottom of your zips if you're wearing a pair of trousers. Take that measurement, fit 2 fingers between yourself and the tape measure, and that's your measurement. Now that we've done our body measurements, let's take a look and see what size we need to cut in order to get a really nice fit. So let's take a look at the instruction booklet together now. If you turn to page 7 on the fitting guide, you can see the design aesthetics and the aspiration for what the pattern should look like on your body. So you can see that it is a nice relaxed fit garment. It is really loosely fitting around the waist and the hips. There's lots of ease. It's sort of a flowing trapeze silhouette. It's got 3/4 length sleeves, so really nice and easy to fit, and inset sleeves here. The cowl neck gives it a really nice relaxed fit up at the top as well. So it talks in the pattern here about the ease. So it says it's semi-fitted with about 10 to 13 centimeters of ease around the bust, and a generous amount of room at the hip as well. So there's lots of space. So the main kind of area of fitting is going to really be up at the shoulders and around the bust area to make sure that that's going to fit you really nicely. It's worth noting that with all of our patterns, we provide 2 different bust sizes. Bust sizes are different to bra cup sizes. Bust sizes are relating to the difference between your high bust measurement and your full bust measurement. If the difference between the 2 is up to 5 to 7 centimeters, you can cut the B cup. If the difference between your high bust and your full bust is more than 7 centimeters, you may want to consider cutting the D cup pattern size. And if it's more than 12.5, 13 centimeters, you may well need to do a full bust adjustment. But this particular pattern, the Emma top sewing pattern, has been designed with lots of ease around the bust, so you should be fine. So how do you pick a pattern size? Let's have a look at this particular example that I've got here. My high bust here is 95 centimeters. So working across the high bust measurement chart here, I'm looking for where 95 sits in nicely. So it's around this H size here. You see it says 94.6. So that will be the size that I would want to cut out for my high bust. And my bust is 100, which fits really nicely into this B cup. Now, what you could look at is on the bigger size up here, there is a 94 centimeters, which is close to my 95 for the high bust, but the bust measurement is 104, so that doesn't really fit nicely with my bust. So that indicates that I should be cutting out the Mrs. size range, which has the B cup pattern size. My next measurement is my waist. So my waist is 83 centimetres, which fits me into the next size up actually, which is the size I. And then finally hips are 115, which fits me again into the next size up, which is a J. Now it's perfectly normal to need to cut a range of different sizes across your pattern pieces. That's really normal, and I will show you how to grade between sizes, which is the terminology we use to describe changing the pattern size according to where it is on your body. You might also want to look at the finished garment size. Obviously this is really loose and flowing. You can see how much ease is going to be in the bust area. So it's the actual amount of fabric around the bust on the pattern once you've sewn it is going to be 111 centimetres. So your 95 centimetres is going to fit really easily into that. At the waist, we've got 124 centimetres circumference around the garment at that point. We only need 83, so again, plenty space there. And the hip measurement around there is loads of ease because it's a nice trapeze shape. So a really easy fit there. Down here at the bottom, it tells you how much fabric you're going to need to cut out your pattern piece, depending on the width, and obviously fabric comes in two different width sizes as standard, so 150 centimetres and 110. So I would go with your biggest pattern size, so for me it's the size J, and I would purchase the amount of fabric required for my largest pattern size. So for me, if I'm buying fabric that's 110 centimetres wide, I would want 2.4 metres. If it was 150 centimetres wide, I'd only want 1.8. Now the final thing to note as you're picking your pattern size and looking at your size range is how tall you are. So the pattern is designed for someone who's 5'6" or 167 centimetres. If you're significantly taller or shorter than that, you may want to lengthen or shorten your pattern piece, and I'll talk you through that later. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at how to grade between sizes. So grading between sizes means that if you've got a range of different sizes that your body requires, we can change the pattern pieces slightly in order to accommodate that and ensure a good fit across our bust, waist and hips. Let's do that together now. Okay, so here are our body measurements. In this example, my bust area, I want to cut a size H, my waist an I, and my hips a J. So I'm grading between three sizes. Let's start off with pattern piece A. So you can see on the pattern it says the approximate hip level, waist level and bust level is indicated by these three notches. So at my hips I want to be a size J, which on this particular example is the largest size. So I'm just going to highlight that with my pen, that's the size I want to cut at that point. When I hit my waist, I want to be a size I, which is the second line in. And then by the time I hit my bust, I'm going to be a size H, which is the third line in. So what do we need to do? We want to cut these three different sizes. And so very simply, we're just going to draw a line between all three of them. And that becomes the cut line. So from here down, we cut the size, the largest size, so our hip size. Follow that around. And then at the waist, we're obviously just cutting the waist. And then from the bust up, we are then going to cut the bust size. So the bust all the way up to the neck is going to be the bust size. Now, when it comes to here, because the pattern is cut on the fold, I would recommend tracing around your largest size. So for us, in this example, it's the H. Now on this side, we obviously want to keep just one size because we want the line to be straight because it's going to be cut on the fold here. Okay, so that's pattern piece A. Let's look at pattern piece C now. Pattern piece C is our sleeve, and we want to cut whatever size we've cut for our bust. So in this example, a size H. You just cut one size for your sleeve because obviously it's just fitting in to that section above your bust. Now let's take a look at pattern piece B, which is our back bodice. Here we go, this is the pattern, and you'll see it's got the three notches down the side seam. So this one here will be our bust, this is our waist, and this is our hip. Working with our body measurements here, our hip is going to be the J, so just highlight the largest size there. Waist is coming in at I, and the bust is coming in at H, like that. Draw a line between those three, and then just continue to follow from the hip down the hip size. From the bust up, we're going to cut out the bust size. So in this example, it's an H. And then the pattern is cut on the fold, so no need to change that. There's just one nice big straight line there. Let's look now at pattern piece D, which is our neck facing. So the neck facing is tying into the top up here. So whatever size you've cut here, which will be your bust size, you want the neck facing to be that size. And it really is that simple when it comes to grading this pattern. We've got pattern piece A, which is our front bodice, and pattern piece B, which is our back bodice here. I've laid them out on the table so that their waist notches align really nicely. So this is my waist notch here, and that's my waist notch here. I'm going to show you how to shorten the pattern piece, but if you were lengthening the pattern piece, you'd just be doing like the reverse, so adding volume in rather than removing volume out. Now the location of where you may want to lengthen or shorten the pattern piece will depend on your specific body. So if from your nape to your waist, you know that it needs to be shortened there, like your waist is higher than on the pattern or lower than on the pattern, you're going to be wanting to change the pattern piece between the waist and the bust, which is here in this section. If, however, your waist is in the correct location on the pattern pieces, like you're happy with where the waistline is, and actually it's your waist to hip level that isn't quite right, the hip isn't sitting in the right place, then you're going to want to draw your cut line between the waist and the hip. In this example, I'm going to assume that we are removing volume and raising the waistline up on the pattern piece. Find the midpoint between the bust and the waist. Square across at that point across both pattern pieces. I'm going to assume that we are reducing the pattern piece by 3 centimetres. Draw a line 3 centimetres above that first line that you drew. Cut along one of those lines. Take the top piece and just bring it down so that the centre back is still lining up nicely. And the line here is also matching up beautifully. Do the same for the front. Now what you'll notice is we've got a little bit of an overlap in both these locations, so all we're going to do is just smooth out that little junction. So line your ruler up with the armscye and the hem, and just draw a line down the side seam to create your new side seam. So we're just shaving off a small amount. Then just remove that extra volume down the side seam of both pattern pieces. Redraw in your notches if they're missing at this point. Great, that's how we lengthen or shorten our pattern pieces. The same principle would obviously apply to the sleeve if you needed to lengthen or shorten that. On this particular pattern piece, it is 3/4 length, so it's actually very forgiving in terms of where it hits your arm at that point. Now this pattern is made out of jersey, but you may find when you try on the garment potentially that the armhole or the armscye is either too high, it's kind of like digging into your arm, or it's too low. This is a really common fit adjustment for inset sleeves, for fitted sleeves. So what we're going to look at next is how to raise or lower the armscye, which is the armhole, and we'll take a look at the sleeve as well. So on this particular pattern piece, let's just imagine that we wanted to drop down the armscye 2 centimetres, as in we wanted to drop it down 2 centimetres to give us a bit more space underneath the armpit. Cut out your pattern piece and mark a 2 centimetre drop from the bottom of the armscye. What we want to do next is find a curve that copies this sort of nice shape here, but it starts 2 centimetres below and comes in to where this double notch is. We don't want to change anything from here up. So either use your ruler to find something that works for you, or of course you can just hand draw that in, something like that. Do the same on the other side. We're wanting to match in with this notch up here. And then very simply just cut out that volume, just like that. Next, let's look at pattern piece C, which is our sleeve piece, and see what changes we need to do to that. So here it is, and basically what we need to do is we need to drop down this section down a little bit to give us a bit more fabric, to give us a bit more curve and length to the sleeve head here. So to start off with, draw a little line all the way across the sleeve like this. Now on the bodice, we drop the armscye by 2 centimetres. On the sleeve, we just halve that and drop it by 1 centimetre. So draw a little line that is 1 centimetre below your first line there. And then really simply, all we want to do is just create a curve up to that point there and working, from the notches as a maximum, coming down and giving us a nice curve in there. What you'll see is that the length of that line has then got slightly longer than this one, same on this side, and that's just going to help us to fit the sleeve beautifully into our new armscye. And that's it. Okay, we're now going to do the full bicep alteration. So this is the point at which your bicep up here is too big for the pattern piece. You've cut out the right size for your bodice, the armholes are working really nicely, the arm size working great. So to start off with, grab a tape measure and we're just going to measure our bicep. So pop your tape measure around this section up here, the top of your arm, and then tense your muscles and make sure you can fit like one finger underneath the tape measure and your body, and take that measurement there. Grab your sleeve pattern piece and draw out your 1.5 centimetre seam allowance as I've done here. Now measure the distance between this point here and that point there. Now on this particular size it's 27.5, and in the example that I'm using, our bicep is 29.5 centimetres, so 2 centimetres bigger. I need to add 2 centimetres volume into the bicep at this point. I'll show you how to do that. For you, you may need to add just 1, maybe 3, 4, 5, whatever, however much it is. You can still follow the principles I'm going to show you now. Draw a line between these 2 points here, and then draw a line from the top notch here straight down. Next, we're going to cut along both those lines, but we want to leave pivot points where the seam allowance is. Snip out to the seam allowance and then snip along that line so it looks like that. Next, snip along the centre line and snip out those little seam allowances. So now we're going to pivot out the pattern pieces, and we are going to pivot it out by the amount that we want to increase it by. So for me, just 2 centimetres. So stretch it out and then just bring it back to the amount that you need to increase it by. Take a piece of paper and put it underneath your pattern piece like this. And then that will help infill this section. So you can see now we've added volume here, but what we've got down here is we've got a bit of a curve now. So grab your ruler and literally just draw a line between the end point and the end point of, and that becomes the new hem of your sleeve. And then up here you might find there's a little bit of a dip up there, so again you might just want to kind of soften that off. It's so marginal, but if you've got a bigger alteration that will have a bit of an impact there. And again you could just choose to straighten off those corners as well so they align nice and neatly. Then cut out your pattern piece and that's it. Okay, so thank you for joining me today as we've looked at how to fit our gorgeous little Emma top sewing pattern. Hope you found that really helpful, and do let us know if you've got any comments, and please do share your makes on our Minerva website where you can create a free account and upload photos of your version of the Emma top. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time.